Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Extra Shift. I'm Chris here, as always, with Brendan. How are we doing?
Good. Yeah. It's been a little bit. Look, I know we say at the end of every podcast, like, yeah, we'll be back really soon, and then
Life
life
happens.
happens. Life happens. Look, we had Christmas, we had New Year's, we had family drama. It's been a little while, so
I got
we're back.
older, so
Yeah, and we've got a bit to talk about for sure.
we've got a little bit to talk about.
Yeah, it's
Um,
nice that they made the biggest trade of the season like 24 hours after our last podcast. That was sweet.
it's kind of what actually prompted me. I'll say at the top here, I put a blog post up this week. I'm going to start putting more of those little article things up as well, and I'm sure Brendan will start contributing some of those as well here and there where we feel the need takes us, just to the Substack, which I've started up, which I'll put the link in with all of our other links, just to sort of, when these things break and I know we're not going to be able to record for the week, just to give some extra stuff, just little bits of extra bits and pieces. For example, I just felt the need to wax lyrical about Macklin Celebrini being amazing. And so that's what that whole article was about, and just pointing out that that's not a fluke, because I kind of got a bit sick and tired of people on the group telling me that was a fluke. So I just went in and wrote an article to point out why that wasn't a fluke and they should shut up. So anyway, with that in mind, bitterness is a great way to do it. Episode 227. So if you go through the numbers, all of the past numbers, again, we come to one of my favorites, Mark Bergevin, former general manager. He played for the Detroit Red Wings in number 27. Todd Bertuzzi, nothing happened while he was wearing 98 for Vancouver, and 98 for Vancouver. Well, nothing. Can't think of
Nothing
anything
important. Nothing of note.
Nothing important happened there. We'll just move past that. I mean, I'll forget it. Certainly, other people forget everything else that happened. Brindamore. Brindamore. There is a Buchanan. Ron Buchanan. From the 1967 Boston Bruins. And then, of course, San Jose Sharks legend Dave Capuano. So, it's a murderer's row of people with that number. I mean, there's not that many people with no one that important.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a handful of
defensemen screaming at me right now.
Yeah, I know. There's a handful of defensemen and so forth that I think you're kind of in that range of it's. There's that weird thing with hockey numbers where you get like, I'll be, this one ending in 7, and then everything after, like 1 7, 2 7, 3 7, 4, that's all a thing, and then that's all like, but this is a reference to this guy, and then this is a reference to this guy, and then but then someone else had it, so I reversed the numbers, and so I'm 72 now and stuff. So there's all of that, I think, that plays into it. But
I mean, obviously, before anyone else yells at me, Frank Mahovlovich, kind of a bit important there. I'm very much, and there is one that I haven't mentioned yet, and I haven't mentioned him. Are you looking at the list?
Yes, but I haven't got the whole thing in front of me. Okay. What do you want?
Go to the top of it.
Yeah.
Who do you think has played the most seasons in number 27?
The most seasons? Probably the guy that I was about to mention when we were talking about defensemen, maybe Ryan McDonough.
Nah.
No, he's got a lot. He's got a lot on there.
22 is the record.
Oh, is it Kovalev?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Alex Kovalev is the answer to that question.
Yeah. I've got a soft spot for Kovalev for this short period of time that he played for the Penguins.
Yep, the New York Rangers and their Black Aces.
Yeah, and noted Penguins legend Craig Adams, who was the whipping boy of the generation when I started watching the Penguins again during that kind of like 09-ish kind of period of time, where he was briefly decent and then was like the worst player in the league for a significant amount of time, but was like every coach loved him, so he just stayed on the team for like 6 years.
I mean, that's always fun when that happens. But it's it's actually quite a well represented number. So and we I know some people go, what does that really matter? It is always really interesting. I think it's interesting to both of us, the way that numbers in the league evolve, and the idea of like some numbers that people see as being amazing and they're the ones they want. And I mean, obviously, like things like the number 99 didn't mean much really until like Gretzky.
I mean, like some people create that that mystique about a number for sure. And a lot of them, as we kind of mentioned, are like references to someone else. It's like, well, I can't have 99, but maybe I can have 98, or I can have 9, or I can't have
Well, I mean, McDavid's doing that now with McDavid is doing that currently.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it's interesting. And look, obviously, we know hockey players are very superstitious people, and I'm sure there's a feel to certain numbers for them that they like or don't like, and yeah, it's an interesting one. But there's a handful, I think, in there that are just sitting there as an opportunity of people to like define, like, I'm going to pick this bizarre number that no one likes and be known as the guy who has that number.
I mean, I like players that do that. I like players that have enough of an ego to go, this is me.
Yeah.
I'm making this number mine.
Yeah. I'm not going to be the next, 66 or whatever. I'm going to be the first, 32 or whatever, but
you want to play. And that's why, like, again, not to get stuck on numbers and to get stuck into Leafs fans, because I like getting stuck into Leafs fans. But that's like, when, for example, there were all those things about, Marner picking numbers and people picking certain numbers in the Leafs. And, that represents the ego to want to play in that number. And it's like, what? No, like, you should want players to want to take that mantle on.
Yeah.
If it's not a retired number and there's a bit of a mystique or a legend around that number, you should want a player who has the confidence to go, mine.
Yeah, there's a weird hypocrisy about, you've got to be this humble, guy to be a hockey player, but also you've got to have,
why aren't you good enough?
Yeah, you've got to, have won it at the same time. Like,
you couldn't lace his skates. How dare you try to lace his skates? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's your damage?
Yeah, anyway, have some confidence.
Let's get into some really important things that happened because, not really much of anything. We got a trade to announce. I think you're going to want to hear it. Let's talk about the most important trade of the entire year, really. So Stuart Skinner and Tristan Jarry swapped.
Of course, yeah, that's it. That's
that has saved the Oilers season because they're amazing now. Just ask everyone; they'll tell you they are amazing now. They are just ahead of the Sharks, and the Sharks have a game in hand. Anyway, we'll start with this one because we'll get to the big one. I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry. That's very much for me rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
It is a little bit. It's an interesting one, especially considering like obviously there's some other small pieces involved in it. Brett Kulak, is another decent defensive piece that the Penguins will probably flip at the deadline for a second or whatever. They also get a 2029 second in the deal, and Sam Poulin, who is a prospect that never really kind of panned out to being anything or whatever, goes back the other way as a body in the deal. But like Jarry has definitely not been a particularly, strong goalie over the last couple of years. That's putting it lightly for, a player who was on waivers last year twice. Obviously the contract is a big part of why, no one claimed him. But he's had some struggles. He hasn't really had any kind of like consistency. He's had like big, mistakes and stuff in the playoffs for the last few years that he was, had that opportunity. And it's, I don't know. It's obviously underwhelming for Edmonton.
Tristan Jarry for Stuart Skinner. Jarry screams, we have Stuart Skinner at home.
Yeah, it's very much that, except that he's being paid twice as much. And he's 3 years older.
Runs longer.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, there's a couple of years left of it.
How do you think this is going so far for him?
Well, I mean, the problem is like Jarry immediately got injured, so he hasn't played a lot of games.
So Connor Ingram, by the way, is the one who's had the net for the time.
Yeah, so I think he basically played like 2 games, got injured. He's now been back for like a game or 2, but in the meantime, Connor Ingram has come up from the AHL, and it sounds like for a little while they're going to at least they're probably going to hold like 3 goalies for a little bit. So he's certainly not, kind of taken the net and run with it. I do expect that because of the contract, he will probably end up being the guy that they lean on. But, I'm not expecting him to be significantly better than Skinner. And Skinner, honestly, in Pittsburgh has been fine. He's been pretty decent compared. They've only got decent goaltending there, but with like Arthur Shilovs is the other option, and they've basically just been splitting starts back and forward, and they've both been fine.
But Edmonton's big problem, 2 things can be true. Stuart Skinner's work in net for the Oilers has been atrocious. I think we can say that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But also, the defense in Edmonton has been terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. And I think the idea of blaming the whole lot on Skinner, again, I would have swapped goalies. There were so many other goalies that you could have gone into the market for. Like Toronto's got 3 right now that they're talking about. Are they going to move one of them? Like Edmonton could have gone out and done a better deal and got a better goalie that wasn't going to cost them double what the Skinner contract was and still has 2 years to run after this. And to give you an idea, he's played 4 games so far. His save percentage is a .878.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's only 4 games, but his goals against a game average is 3.28 for this out of 4 games.
Yeah,
like,
which is worse than what he was doing in Pittsburgh, to be clear.
That's not.
And Pittsburgh fans were done with him already. Like this is the thing. It's not like they were like, oh, we fan favorite or whatever. Like people had been wanting to get rid of Jarry for like, a couple of years now. Like basically it's just been like, well, we need to do, it's the lament of like, can't we just get Fleury back?
Connor Ingram is got a 904 on 7 games played. And Calvin Pickard, is Calvin Pickard. So like you've got 16 games played with an 871. I mean, they still don't have a solution in net. How do you get less cap space, give up assets, and you're not better? You are at best level, but now with less cap space and less assets.
Yeah.
Like for me, the problem with this trade is it's to seem to do something. It's to get rid of Stuart Skinner, but you didn't bring back anything that's better. Like you brought back someone and also they're older. Like Tristan Jarry's 3 years older than Stuart Skinner. He's 3 years older. He makes 5.35 as opposed to 2.6, and he's
all I can see it as is
contract.
Yeah, all I can see it is they just decided, well, we have to do something. We just got to shake it up a little bit. We've got to do something. And I mean, look, honestly, props to Carl Dubas of like basically digging himself out of this hole that he dug by signing like Jarry at the point before he signed this contract 3 years ago. This was basically one of the first things that Dubas did when he took over, was to give Jarry this 5-year extension, which everyone kind of went, yeah, is that really like the best option? Like, okay, I guess, but like, maybe there wasn't anything better out there at the time, but was that absolutely necessary to give him this extension? I think he did it about a year out from when the last contract ended, and it was just like, I don't know, like, that was an underwhelming move at the time. And, honestly, props to him for getting himself out of that deal halfway through and getting assets back in the process. And there'll be more assets that come from this deal. So they end up with a second from it. They will probably flip Skinner at the deadline for another second. They will probably flip Kulak at the deadline for another second, and end up with 3 seconds out of getting out of that deal. And then they will bring up, the AHL goalie and be better off for it. But yeah, it's a puzzling one for the Oilers. I can't imagine that this was the best option out there that they could have come to.
It doesn't make like this. There are more goalies out there at the moment than I think teams are getting credit for.
Yeah.
There are actually better options, not like world beaters, but there's better options out there. The other one is, and I mentioned this to you at the time, it's a long shot, but why do you not contact Winnipeg, who are horrible, and ask them what they want for Hellebuck?
Yeah.
Why aren't you at least really making that inquiry and going, what do you want? Like, we'll do it. I'm sure there's a piece that you could give up off the roster that's not going to weaken the roster to the level of your goaltending is going to improve.
Yeah.
Like, you could do something like that. You could go and get, there's a number of teams, I'm pretty certain you could get their goalies out, and they're probably a better shout than just Tristan Jarry, and they wouldn't cost you that much. And you can get out from under the contract. I don't quite understand that. Anyway, let's race through the others before we go back to the big one. Okay. So we'll quickly go back to Philip Deneau, because Montreal decided they would like their Philip Deneau back. So second round pick from Columbus goes back to the Kings from Montreal. Montreal gets Philip Deneau. I never really understood why he went.
I think that at the time, Montreal was kind of in a position where they thought that they had everything kind of squared up with their prospects and stuff that were coming. It was like, well, we don't want to pay this extension for Deneau. We've got all these guys coming or whatever. It's all going to be fine. And then they immediately ended up being like weak at center. It's not like Deneau was ever going to be a top line center for them or anything, but they've just never really kind of had.
He was their most important shutdown.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When the Canadians were briefly what I would consider good.
Yeah.
It was Philip Deneau was the reason that they were getting so much traction, because Deneau was able to go out and shut down the big lines of other teams. And that would then leave the rest of the lines free to do some damage.
Yeah. But, I mean, look, obviously this was 5 years ago. Maybe he didn't want to sign there. I don't remember anymore. But it is what it is.
Deneau always feels like a Canuck, so that just makes that makes perfect sense.
He always felt a little bit surplus to needs on the Kings too. But I'm curious to see what the Kings are going to look like next year, because I don't think that they've had a lot of guys necessarily step into the role that Kopitar is going to abdicate next year. Deneau was kind of a stopgap solution to some degree there, but maybe Brant Clark will be ready to be or Quentin Byfield or someone, not Brant Clark, Quentin Byfield or someone is going to be, ready to kind of step into that, that role or whatever. But I don't know. I think there's going to be a bit of a gap there.
I don't think there's a team that's about to feel the speed of San Jose's rebuild more than the Kings.
Yeah.
Because the Kings had started to develop themselves and were developing themselves. And the whole argument about the Kings in the offseason was they're just not stepping forward fast enough, and what the hell's going on. And I think the Kings are sort of in this middle ground at the moment where their rebuild is sort of still not finished, but they were a couple of steps ahead of everyone else, so thought they could cheat it a bit.
Yeah.
And what's happened is that San Jose's suddenly taken this Celebrini-sized leap, which is what I'll call it. It's a Celebrini-sized leap. Anaheim has been much better than expected. And I think the Kings might find themselves a bit caught out long term in terms of they're a good, solid team. But both the Sharks and the Ducks have potential to just leap them. And I think that's probably going to be of a big concern to LA, that the other two Californian teams are probably going to jump them in the next 12 to 18 months and speed off past them. And then they've got decisions to make in terms of the draft and what they do. So I don't know what the Kings are going to do. Losing Kopitar is going to hurt them really badly. The Columbus Blue Jackets, in the most significant thing they did, we'll come back to that. Mason Marchment is acquired from Seattle for a 2027 second and a 2026 fourth. It's fine. It gives Mason Marchment a chance to play some higher minutes than he was going to get in Seattle. That's not bad. I like Marchment as a player. Not much to say about that one, really.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, look, two just okay teams, shifting around a just okay player.
And in a trade of one player who's a prospect and one player who's a player that you'd swear was still a prospect, and is he really 30 years old? Igor Shinnikov and Danton Heinen were traded for each other. I always still think of Heinen as this prospect that's still up and coming, and he's a couple of years in. I don't think.
Yeah, I think he was kind of that guy that had potential to turn into something for a long time as this middle six guy, and then eventually just kind of became nothing.
Yeah, he just sort of became.
Heinen is fine. I think that he was surplus to needs really on the Penguins already. He's just kind of was signed to a 2-year contract, and they didn't really kind of need him this year. But they also gave up a 2026 second and a 2027 third in the deal. The Penguins, I think, prior to this, had the most picks in the upcoming few drafts or whatever as anyone. So it might still be the case, but they had some surplus, kind of things to move. Chekhov's an interesting player to me because obviously, if we remember back a few years, Columbus took him higher than everyone expected. You know, he was expected to go, I think, towards like maybe like the end of the first, start of the second or something off the top of my head. It was like, you know, it was seen as a big reach at the time.
Yeah.
They saw something in him that you know, they really thought that he was ready to play, and they did bring him up to the NHL very early. Like, I think he played either after the, like, you know, immediately after his draft year or within like, you know, 9 to 12 months or whatever after he was drafted. And he's been in the NHL for a little while because of that. I don't think that he's ever maybe kind of reached the potential that they wanted from him. And there was rumblings earlier this year that he wanted out, he wanted to be traded, he wanted a new opportunity. So I think that this, you know, from the Penguins' perspective, makes a lot of sense. They've been trying to do this, you know, get young players who, you know, will, you know, continue to make them younger, continue to kind of be in that pocket of like early 20s, you know, players ready to play in the NHL already. So from that perspective, I'm curious to see, like, so far he's been doing pretty well. He's been playing in the top 6. He's seems to have a little bit of chemistry with Malkin, you know, so there's, you know, there's some good stuff there from that perspective. Even if this year doesn't pan out, they still have his RFA rights and they can trade it for something, you know, after that or whatever. They, you know, they still have control over him as a player. So I like the swing. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense for them to, you know, target a player like that.
Yeah, it makes sense, but you know,
I don't know that he's ever going to be a, you know, star top 6 player or anything.
Look, it's a decentish move, but you know,
yeah.
Not. You know. Let's get to something that is, however, earth changing and ground shaking.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly open this door because I realize I've committed the cardinal sin of locking my cat out of the room, and he is very upset about it.
Yeah, I've done the same, but I'm ignoring the banging. Anyway, while Brendan goes off and does that,
I'm not far away.
So while Brendan is letting the cat in, as I'm ignoring my cats.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Wild acquire Quinn Hughes from the Vancouver Canucks for Marco Rossi, Liam Ogren, Zeev Bloom, and a 2026 first round pick. Literally the day after we were sort of floating the idea of, hey, why doesn't somebody, you know, San Jose could ask about Quinn Hughes. Like, and I was like half joking on that and half serious. And I think after we finished the podcast, I had a quick chat with Brendan where I'm like, if I'm the Sharks, I'm probably just making a phone call. Like, I'm sure they can get him. It turns out Minnesota could. So this is it's an interesting trade. So let's start with the obvious bit of this, which is that I think since the trade, what we've had confirmed to us is that Minnesota knew exactly what the hell they were doing. Because he has made a very, very good Minnesota side absolutely ridiculous, except when they play the Sharks, because the Sharks are their kryptonite. Anyway, beyond that, he has made a very good Minnesota team excellent.
Oh yeah.
He has a rate. I was looking up some of his stats. So since he's been there, for example, 12.5 exits per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. He's the same level as Makar, Devontae's, Seth Jones. He breaks the zone. He's got more stretch passes in the league, successful stretch passes in the league than any other player this season, and it's not close. I think it's 125 from memory. The team is giving up 0.16 fewer expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Right. He is not necessarily been acquired because of his defensive skills. He's not a shutdown defenseman.
No.
But he's succeeding in the defensive areas, and he's made their offense lethal. Like, you can see why Minnesota went, we will give you all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that a player of that caliber does not come up very often, if at all. Like, you know, he is, you know, arguably, you know, the top or maybe the top 3, you know, defensemen in the league, in his prime, you know, in his mid-20s.
At a reasonable cap hit.
Yeah, at a very reasonable cap here, you know, like well below what he would be signed to in the free agent market right now. And you know, and they've got him for, you know, at least a year and a half, assuming that you know, that he doesn't re-sign. I've seen a lot of people, you know, oh, you know, it's a lot to give up for, you know, for a rental because he's just going to sign with, you know, the Devils or whatever in a year's time. We don't know that for sure. You know,
I'm actually becoming less and less convinced by the day. I
yeah,
think
and I
the
think that the
brothers will all
reality
play
is,
together, but he's
yeah,
27. That's 26. There's no need to do it now.
no, and it's interesting too because, like, I think that, you know, if it was like 3 months, like, you know, that they had him for, I'm like, okay, yeah, probably he's not going to put down any roots here. But there's a difference between being in a place for 3 months and being in a place for like 18 months, and you know, having, you know, made these, you know, bonds, you know, potentially, you know, gone deep in a playoff run with them, all that kind of stuff, you know, just to be like, oh no, I'm still going to go and play with our brothers, whatever. If that's the case, you know, I think that Minnesota still does well out of it if they can, even with giving up, you know, these players and that pick, you know, to escalate them to being a, you know, a contender team with a legitimate chance of having a very deep run in the playoffs. You know, that I think that's worth it. I think that's worth that price for, you know, rather than going, you know, for another 10 years, hoping that maybe they get a player of Quinn Hughes caliber. If you can get a player of that caliber, just fucking do it and see what happens.
The weird things, so there were weird things that came out about this during this trade. So first of all, the weird thing is, and I'm not going to downplay that any really was the thing that was swinging it in their favor because they had other offers on the table that were potentially bigger, but the Canucks were really desperate to land Marco Rossi. That was one of the things that came out in all the conversations was that like, they had some offers with maybe more trade capital or more this or more that, but they've always had their eye on Marco Rossi, and they've been determined to get Marco Rossi into the building. So that played a large part of it, that they could get him as part of this deal. And I like Marco Rossi, but as the main drawing point to a trade for Quinn Hughes, I don't know if I like him that much. Like to not necessarily look around. I think what this is the Canucks are terrified of a rebuild. Now, they have, since this trade, they've basically, through media and interviews, acknowledged the fact they're going to have to rebuild. They've finally acknowledged that. But I think this was an attempt to do this without having to rebuild by going, we get Zeev Boyum, we get Liam Ogren, we get Marco Rossi. We've got 3 players we can plug and play into the system. This isn't a rebuild; it's a retool on the fly. You know, one of those great things that GMs love to say.
Yeah.
And they still get a 2026 first round pick, so they can go. We've got some draft capital, but we've got the players for the now. This is a move to make us better now. And they looked better in their first game, and everyone went, "Oh, look, they're better now." And then Rossi's on LTIR at the moment, on IR at the moment. The rest of them are around. And Vancouver currently has a losing streak going again.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've created, understandably, like yeah, I mean that was gonna happen when you give up a player of that caliber that's, you know, kind of keeping, you know, you afloat in a lot of ways.
That, and you know, Thatcher Demko coughed and hurt his foot.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah,
while we're talking about this trade, I want to get this out of the way.
Yeah,
the Thatcher Demko experiment in Vancouver is done. Right, he is the most injury-prone human on the planet. They admitted that when they brought him off IR, he still wasn't great, but they were going to play him. And then he hurt his foot, and they went, he's okay. And the very next day, he went back onto IR, and they went, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We don't actually know how long. Right.
Well, we've been hearing about him for a while that, you know, he's just never going to be fully 100% again. Like he has some lingering injury that can't be really fixed. And, you know, he's going to have to learn to play through it. We've been hearing that for a few years since he was kind of at the top of his game after that, you know, insane playoff run. And it's, clearly going to never really be fully back to, you know, what he could have been.
He comes back, and he'll play an outstanding game, and everyone goes, "Yep, Vancouver's back because Thatcher Demko's back," and you just count backwards from 10.
Yeah.
And at some point in that count, he's going to hurt himself, and they're all done. And so, like, I can understand why, Quinn Hughes at the end was so fed up and was just like you've built this entire team off the idea that we've got a goalie that's really good, but he's injured all the time. So he's not really good because he's not here. So what have you built this team off? You've traded all the other assets away.
Yeah, I mean, they got rid of JT Miller. They got rid, they got rid of all of these guys who were kind of, the difference makers.
And the ones they didn't get rid of, they've sidelined.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing I think that's really weird about Vancouver. They got rid of players, but the ones they didn't get rid of, they kind of made feel like
they're incredibly good at just in totally cratering the value of a player before they trade them away.
Brock Besser and Elias Pettersson are worth nothing.
Yeah, that for sure. Like, they've spent years, just degrading their value to the point where they'll have to pay someone to take them away. They did the same thing with JT Miller. They'll I don't know. I think that they got a pretty reasonable return for Quinn Hughes. It sounds like there were some other, contenders for the trade. I don't know if any of the packages were significantly, better in any way. Like, I think they did probably about as well as they could have realistically out of it, but still, you're never going to get as a better return than Quinn Hughes. He's always going to be the best player in the trade.
Yeah, like Liam Ogren's not played at all. Like that's
no, I mean, like, he's not one of the biggest pieces in that, for sure. Like, Boom was there to kind of, take over as, the up and coming, quarterback guy, but he's not Quinn Hughes. He's never going to be Quinn Hughes. And Marco Rossi has never quite been, the center that, people expected that he might turn into either. So, that you got a bunch of, decent young players back. That's kind of it.
There's not much there. As I said, I feel like this is a move of a team that was not committed to a rebuild.
Yeah.
But knew they had to, but really didn't want to, but knew they had to. Like, they had to get rid of Quinn Hughes while they can get value for him. But by the same token, they didn't really know what they wanted to take back because they wanted someone to give them a great player, and no one was going to do that. So I just feel like at the end of the day, this is like, it's not a horrible trade for them. They've got some pieces back, but it sort of feels a little bit more like it's a team that sort of was hedging, didn't want to commit to the rebuild completely, but knew they needed to. So that's what they've done. And now
that's been the Canucks for the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. This is a consistent problem in Canucks ownership. We talked about it last podcast. As we said, the general manager gets the coffee for the president of hockey operations, who is the general manager. Yeah. And like as far as everybody knows, Jim Rutherford runs that team. It's got nothing to do. Like, Patrick Alvin gets coffee.
Yeah,
makes statements, signs his name on press releases. While Jim Rutherford does all the bits like, picking players and sorting player trades. And because Rutherford was the one talking about the fact that he's always really liked Marco Rossi. Like, it wasn't Patrick Alvin saying I've always coveted him. It was Rutherford going, I've always really liked Marco. You're the president of hockey operations. Get out of the way of the general manager. Let him with a job. There are a couple of other signings. Alexandre Texier, 2 years, 2.5, Montreal.
He's doing pretty well this year, to be honest. I kind of forgot about him because he did go away for like there. Well, he is. This is an extension, but and he has been having like a very good season. I don't know how long.
I thought he'd only just re-signed. So like,
well, I
thought they'd only just re-signed him.
No. I think it may have been last season or the end of last season.
French Canadian, they got to sign him every 6 months.
Yeah. So it is. I believe that he signed with them but he'd been away for a little bit. Like, he went. Yeah. So he signed this year on a contract. I think that he's been like away. He went and played in France for a little while. He was out of the NHL for like a year or two. I think that there was something around the COVID stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was that specifically caused that kind of split with him being away. I think that he had some some like mental health issues or something like that he went away to deal with. So I'm glad to see him, back in the NHL. It's nice to see, like a French national player, getting to kind of this level and being able to, play in a top six in an NHL team, which is pretty cool. So I hope that he succeeds with that.
And the Ottawa Senators have exhumed the corpse of James Reimer. And
I totally forgot. I legitimately thought he retired,
but I thought he retired too, like because Dangle made a big deal out of it. But then he's back. But apparently he's signed with them, but he's nowhere near the team at the moment. I was reading something about it where they've signed him, and he is signed, but he hasn't like made it to Ottawa, and like they don't know when they're actually planning on using him, but they've signed him. Like he's signed.
Interesting. So he last played in the NHL in the 24-25 season. So, basically a couple of years ago at this point in time, he played 2 games that season. He played 22 games the year before in Buffalo. That was kind of the last point. He was 36 at that point. So he'll be turning 38 this year, which is old as dirt for a goalie. I don't know. I'm curious to see. Look, I hope that he has some success, but it's been some time before he was a significant goalie in the NHL.
Yeah. So let's get to the other bit of Columbus news from before. So I did say there was one other bit of Columbus news. Dina Vason and Steve McCarthy were fired, and Rick Bowness has been brought in as the new head coach. Now, my first question is: was Dina Vason, was he fired face to face? Were they brave enough to fire that man face to face, or did they ring him on the phone so that he couldn't punch them in their face? Because we know he is the angriest man in the NHL. Not a man that whenever you see him on the bench, he looks like he's about to kill somebody. What I loved is all the people, and there were lots of people, when I put this post up in the group, first of all, people mistook me for a Columbus fan, and that's hilarious. Secondly, there were a lot of people who told me that I was wrong, and this is an amazing signing, and Bowness will be so good for this club. And again, first of all, if you're talking about toughness and grit and all those sorts of things, again, you've just fired Dina Vason. The man is the face of it. But secondly, we're bringing in a 70-year-old who is now by 3 years the oldest coach in the NHL, who, when he left the last job, said, "That's it for me. I'm kind of done." And the talk was that he was worn out. He was tired. He realized like he was approaching 70, and everyone was kind of like, he's kind of done with this generation of players. It doesn't kind of work anymore.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we're talking about him being the saving grace hero.
Maybe that's perfect for Columbus, who see themselves as a team of the 80s. So I don't know. I'm just not impressed by Rick Bowness in any way, and I just don't see what this achieves. I mean, look, I'm not sad about Dean Everson going. Like, okay, sure, I don't know what that was really doing there. I guess they just felt like they had to do something. I just don't know that this is a particularly exciting move for Columbus.
I kind of look at it and go, there are lots of teams that are. There are lots of teams that take chances on a hire and go, especially if you're in the position Columbus is in, and you go, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to find a coach who we think can develop with the team, can move forward with this team. And the idea is we're going to put him in there and we're going to put him in the job, and we're not going to fire him. And we're going to give them a couple of years to work with this squad and develop this team up together. Again, people are going to get sick of me saying it like a broken record, but like the Sharks' point with Ryan Wasowski was, you're a young coach. We like your system. We think you think well about the game, and we think you teach well. Yeah. We've got a team of young players. We're going to put you together. Go. Do it. That's paying off for San Jose right now because he's growing into the league. They're growing into the league. He's coaching without fear because, like, he's got nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah. It's like, well, there's no expectations.
And because there's no expectations, the players are playing without that fear, and you're getting results. In Columbus, I don't think bringing in a grizzled older coach to sort of be a hard ass is the solution. I don't think they get better by being bag skated.
I mean, they've been doing the same gag for like how long?
They had Tortorella.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, this is the same move as like, it's that fucking meme of like, people keep doing this and it never works for them, whether, but it could work for us. But the people that keep doing it is them. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again and wondering why it's not working out for them.
So, all right. So just to quickly go through it then, in terms of their coaches.
What's the history of the Columbus coaching position? Because I don't think it's going to be anyone exciting. They're all going to be the same fucking guy.
Let's have a look at the team history of Columbus Blue Jackets coaches. So, we know obviously they've had Dina Vason.
Yeah. Was Torts right before that?
No. Remember, they did something else that was funnier. Can you remember what it was?
Did Yamo become the coach again briefly?
No. So let's go backwards. Rick Bowness.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this really is the Who's Angry. Okay.
Yeah.
So Rick Bowness.
Yeah.
Dina Vason.
Yeah.
Pascal Vincent.
Oh, yeah.
Why was Pascal Vincent hired, you might ask? Who was the coach who took the job and never coached a game?
Oh.
Mike
Babcock. Yeah, fuck, that's right. I forgot about that.
And then Brad Larson.
Yeah.
Then John Tortorella.
Yeah.
Then Todd Richards.
Yeah.
Scott Arnell. Claude Noel. Ken Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Gary Agnew as a temporary. Gerard Gallant. Doug McLean.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Shit.
King. How did you forget Doug McLean?
Doug McLean. Oh, my God. That list. It's going back a while now.
But look at that list.
Yeah.
They've not done a single thing differently in their coaching history. All of these people who tried to tell me that they're doing something different, no, they're not. They've hired the same coach for the 12th time.
Yeah, maybe we'll get this version of it. Maybe we'll get the slightly older version of him. Maybe we'll get the, slightly bolder version of him. Like, what the fuck are you trying to do here?
For anybody who's about to try to remind us that John Tortorella won the Jack Adams coaching there, he did not win it. Sergei Bobrovsky
won it for him, and then immediately got the biggest contract in the league and left, and then they were shit.
Because Sergei Bobrovsky realized he was a goalie.
Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a connection between the Jack Adams and the goalie of the year. Surprising that happens. Look,
the win percentages. The win percentages are really interesting. So Dina Vason, this is interesting. Dina Vason has the third highest win percentage in the history, fourth highest win percentage in the history. Claude Noel only took 24 games.
Yeah.
So he has 542 as a win percentage. Todd Richards had a 529.
Okay.
Tortorella had a 568. Dina Vason had a 528.
Yeah.
And got fired.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, look, it's tough because literally almost everyone in the league, except currently for the Rangers, who we'll talk about later, in the East are above 500. So it's a weird bar at the moment in the East because everyone is just good. I don't know. I mean, look, that's kind of the story of the Columbus Blue Jackets' entire franchise history to me, is just they've just been okay the whole time. They've never been, particularly good. They've never really done anything of note. They've just been there the whole fucking time.
Gerard Gallant's win percentage, by the way, was 430. Not the worst.
Yeah.
But low. Doug McLean, you want to guess?
Oh, it's got to be pretty bad. I gotta go like 450.
380.
Yeah, I wanted to go under 4, but I'm like, no, surely not. He was there for a really short time, right?
He is, except for Gary Agnew, who only coached 5 games.
Yeah.
Doug McLean has the worst win percentage in the history of the Columbus.
Yeah, that actually sounds about right. I think I did actually know that. I think that there was some story about that at some point in time. That
everyone forgets that Doug McLean was there, and then you remember and go, "Oh God, that's right."
Yeah.
All right. Moving past the fact that Columbus just keep hiring the same head coach.
Yeah.
Dougie Hamilton. So
yeah,
I don't know what's going on with him because they brought him back today. He played today.
Yeah, he only sat out for 1 game.
Yeah, but he was the healthy scratch holdout for a while there. It then came out, Friedman talked about the fact that they tried to move him to San Jose in the offseason and he blocked it because he has a 10-team no trade list, because that then prompted everyone to go, well, with the way the Sharks are playing at the moment, does he maybe revisit that one? And do they revisit that one? And does he now maybe have a different answer if they come and say, what about San Jose now?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this is strategy around trying to put a little bit of a shoulder into him to say, hey, if you want an opportunity, maybe you should waive that no trade list. Like, I think that's a little bit of it, like there isn't a lot of incentive for him while he's still playing. But if they go, well, look, we've got all these guys who we want to give opportunities to over you, maybe you should waive your list if you want to go and play somewhere where they need you.
I think the thing that's actually going to stop San Jose from revisiting that one is the $9 million cap hit.
Yeah. Is he in the last year of his deal, or does he have more?
No, there's 2 more after this year.
I was going to say, like,
his contract expires in 28-29.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So look, that's tricky for sure. Like, I think there's not a lot of teams that can take that on this year, at least. Probably next year.
I think that San Jose would do it if the cap hit was brought down.
Yeah,
because I think I said the other day, I think it might have been to you the other day, that for me, the thing with Dougie Hamilton is that San Jose have the ability to basically say to Dougie Hamilton, you will walk into our first defensive pairing and you will walk into the first power play defenseman. You get all power plays. And think about it, you're getting power plays with Macklin Celebrini, William Eklund, Will Smith, Misa if he's playing. You're getting power plays with all these guys because at the moment that's how they've been able to like make John Klingberg look like a defenseman again.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's I think that San Jose is probably one of the best opportunities for him in the league currently, for sure. Like, there isn't that many teams that can take on that full freight of the cap hit. There's a few that have space. Surprisingly, there's a few teams that maybe could fit him. I think that the tricky thing is, though, like, who is gonna? There's probably not many teams apart from San Jose who have just a total dearth of defensive options.
I wonder if Chicago
give him an opportunity. Yeah, Chicago, I think could make sense. They're kind of getting
Chicago now with the trade that was made the other day with San Jose. Chicago's top 2 defensemen on their Puckpedia are Shea Weber and Ryan Ellis.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, Chicago obviously
had both of those contracts and traded both of them to Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, apart from Chicago, like Detroit could fit in, Anaheim could fit in. Weirdly, I didn't realize the Penguins had this much cap space that technically they could fit in. Probably a bit of that is that Carlson just went on IR. They don't need him because they already have Carlson on the Tang. I just don't see why they would do that. But there isn't really a lot of other teams that could take the full freight without sending something back.
No, you've got to send something back or get them to retain. So,
yeah, and I don't think that they want to retain for 2 years. Like, maybe there's a little bit more appetite with the cap going up, but they want to compete, and I just don't know if they're going to hold $7 million of that contract.
They are currently. Let me have a look. They're currently $4 million projected over the cap.
Yeah. So I don't think they can retain. No, they need that cap relief.
They've got some work to do. So that'll be really interesting to see. Dougie Hamilton will probably find himself on a new team very shortly. Sidney Crosby also broke Mario's record for most points in Penguins franchise history. And
still going. He's having a pretty great season.
Sid's season this year has been genuinely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is the story of both Crosby and Lemieux in what they could have done with a healthier career. Like, look, Crosby would have done this about 2 seasons ago had he not missed all of that time to the concussion problems and the neck problems. But Lemieux is the same thing. Look, he came back from cancer treatment and still put up scoring record and stuff. Like, the if he had the longevity of some other players, what he could have done is incredible. But look, I think it's nice to see players at this point in time like Crosby and Malkin like kind of cementing their place as on the the real kind of Mount Rushmore, as awful as a thing that is, of like the team's history. It's nice to kind of have them like fully like not just there as like second fiddles to Lemieux and Yaga, but like kind of being like, well, these are actually the kind of in many ways the most impactful players that have ever been there in the franchise.
I kind of feel like one of the things I think that's really interesting, and I think it's more accepted from an outside perspective than a Penguins fan perspective. I think from a Penguins fan perspective, I think that obviously that Mario obviously holds the pride of place, and it's especially with the older school fans, but that's passed down. I think fans from the outside looking in at Pittsburgh acknowledge obviously how amazing Mario was. But I think if you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and you want to talk about impact from the Pittsburgh Penguins, I think that Crosby Malkin double-headed monster is by far and away their most successful, dominant peak era. Like those two as a double-headed monster.
And just the longevity of it too. Like there are so few players that have played together that long.
The other thing I think that's really interesting is that for all of the points that Draisaitl and McDavid rack up in Edmonton, Malkin Crosby is what they want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. But for me, one of the things with the McDavid Draisaitl thing that always makes me sort of second guess it is they get a ton of points, but they're not Crosby Malkin in terms of the Penguins would win because Crosby Malkin would just control it. Yeah. Whereas what you seem to get in Edmonton is those two score a barrage of points, but they are the only people doing anything on that team.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's I mean,
and look, a lot of the time now they put them on the same line, so it's
I mean, look, I hope for them in some capacity that they overcome that that hump, because it's definitely not their fault that Edmonton hasn't succeeded.
It's not their fault, but I think
it went through the same era of like there was a point in time where their defense was terrible, and Marc-Andre Fleury, literally lost them series, for several years that they probably should have won, and they just broke through a few times and changed the narrative around that. And I think that in the same way of Ovechkin, finally winning, finally breaking through after all of that, and him getting blamed for the lack of success that the Capitals had, it's just going to take McDavid winning one or two to change the narrative around him as well.
Well, what that's going to take, we've talked about this before and we'll talk about it again ad nauseum, I'm sure. It's going to take a general manager in Edmonton who knows how to build a roster. And I'm starting to think that, apart from the fact that I thought that Bowman was a terrible hire because I didn't believe he should be back in hockey.
Yeah.
I think the other big problem is that he's not very good at roster building.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's not. Like, he's not good at roster building. So, which is something that at least in Pittsburgh they've had serviceable roster building. So
yeah, I mean, look, you can say what you will around a bunch of seasons where you're just screaming at it like, why can't you see that this is a problem? They a few times it all came together for them for sure.
Meanwhile, it's Olympics season, folks, and we think we're going.
Yeah.
Fairly certain. We're fairly certain. They have said they have reserved the right to pull the players at any point in time if they think it's unsafe. But at this point in time,
technically always the case.
Yeah, but this is one of the only times where it might happen.
Yeah.
They did the test arena games the other day. Most people said the rink held up fine.
It sounded like it improved over the course.
There were holes in the first game. There were no holes in the second game.
They're working it out.
We talked about it last pod, and they were talking about the fact that they weren't sure about getting the ice frozen in time, but they were hopeful, and they've managed to get the ice frozen, so that's something. That helps. I think most of the laughter was about the scoreboard, which seemed like they ripped it out of a community rink in like northern Canada and like just stuck it to the roof. It's not going to be the highest tech Olympic hockey tournament you've ever seen in your life. The ice is a couple of different types of the right size, but not the same lots of right size.
Yeah.
Is it Olympic width and NHL length or vice versa? It's one of those.
It sounds like there's a bit of extra space in the or something. I think it's Olympic width and NHL length.
Yeah, I think it's wider, but it's shorter.
Which is weird.
That's gonna look unusual.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna have no room behind the net, but they're gonna have all of this room out wide.
On the plus side, I think to some degree, like everyone is going to be disadvantaged by it, which makes it fine.
It's a disadvantage. I just think it's going to be hilarious. I think the first couple of games are going to be hilarious because you're going to have these players who are expecting a board and there's no board, or they're not expecting a board and there's one right in front of them. Someone is going headfirst into a board.
Yeah, it's going to mess up your
forget that it's not a big
timing of it for sure.
So. Couple of things that have obviously taking place here that are kind of really big and important. McDavid has never represented Team Canada at the Olympics because they didn't go.
Yeah, they didn't go one year because they just decided not to, and then COVID canceled the most recent Winter Olympics. It's so fucking insane that he is like 10, 12 years into his career, and like when the hell did McDavid come into the league?
Yeah, he's
like in his late 20s now. He's 29. He's 29. This is his first Olympics.
Yeah, Connor McDavid's first ever Olympics.
That's nuts. I think that he just missed out on one. Like, I think that he got drafted like a little bit after what would it have been the 2014 Olympics or whatever. I think he got drafted in like 2015, 2016 or something. So it just totally got screwed over by it.
Obviously, I'm going to focus on the most important thing, which is Macklin Celebrini is there. Look, it was impossible to leave him off.
For sure. I mean, the season he's having, like, not a chance.
You can't leave him out. He's genuinely, and I just want to mention it now before it all falls away and people start writing think pieces about why it's a lot of crap. He's genuinely in the MVP conversation. He's genuinely a Hart contender. He is the second favorite for the Hart. Like, genuinely with the bookies, he is the second favorite for the Hart behind Nathan McKinnon. And for anyone wondering why is he ahead of McDavid and why is he ahead of all these other people, remember the Hart is the most valuable to their team.
Yeah, it's because he's on the Sharks and the Oilers made the cup final last year and the Sharks were a lottery team.
The difference between the Sharks' last season performance and this season's performance is Macklin Celebrini is on one. That's why. Connor Bedard isn't there at the moment, but Braden Point's knee collapsed yesterday.
Yeah, he sounds like he's
and I know this because I have him in fantasy.
Yeah, week to week is what I heard, which technically is anything less than like 2 months. So, so I would be surprised if he goes to the Olympics. But...
I would suspect that Connor Bedard, who has been injured but is back now, I would suspect that Bedard gets the call up.
Obviously, it's Team Canada, so they have a dearth of options. But there's I suspect that he'll probably be the one that gets a call sooner or later. Eventually, like there'll be at least one or two other guys who end up getting injured right beforehand, which always happens.
And you know who didn't have options and still took the wrong one? Team USA. So what a weird team. Absolutely bizarre. They went for vibes.
Yeah.
They went for feeling and vibes and grit. And
I mean, there's all that. The North American teams just can't fucking help themselves with that. They've just always got to do it.
So, like the forwards, like, okay. So, I don't really understand some of the Team USA. Like, how do you leave Jason Robertson at home?
What does he have to do? Like I don't get it. He missed out on the last one too. And like he's better now than he was before. And he was a snub on the last Olympic roster.
We know, here's the stupid part. We know that Team USA have watched the Rangers because they didn't pick Adam Fox.
Yeah.
Who then went to LTIR after he wasn't picked.
They picked JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck over Jason Robertson.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get the non-selection of Adam Fox. Now, again, he's now gone to LTIR, but he didn't do that until after they named the Olympic team. So I think he was kind of expecting to go. And then when they didn't pick him, I think he just went, let's shut this down for now. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like the team sucks. Not great. Also, the interesting thing is the goalies. It's a really fascinating, just in general, all of the goalies. So Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman for Team USA. Team Canada. Remember when Team Canada had this wealth of goalies?
Yeah, they've been
And remember
pretty
when it's
fucking
now
bad.
Jordan Binnington, Darcy Kemper, and Logan Thompson?
I mean, Binnington has been their go-to guy for a while now, which is not good.
Well, remember, there was a big conversation at one point in the early season about Stuart Skinner was going to the Olympics for Canada.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that Canada has better options. They just don't have the name recognition, and they are so enamored with the name recognition of players on their Olympic team that they just, for some reason, have to keep going back to Binnington. I just do not get it.
I think Czechia might have the best goalie triple at the thing. So Lucas Dostal, Vemelka, and Dan Vladar.
I mean, look, they're all obviously, they're doing pretty well. Russia is always
Russia's not there, so
yeah. Well, that's obviously they're not actually in there, but
Finland has Lackinen, Pekka Luukkonen, and Saros.
Yeah, I mean Sweden, it's okay. It's been better. Elvis
Merzlikins and Silovs are there for Latvia, so that's not bad. I love where some of these teams have had to draw from like US college teams or like the AHL, or like they're always the fun ones for me.
Yeah.
Surely Schmidt's starting in net for Switzerland. There's any recognizable goalie they've got on their roster. Yeah, like some really interesting ones. We're put it this way: we're not back in the days of Dominic Hasek stealing a gold medal.
No,
I don't think we're in that realm with this class of goalies. I just don't think that's on the cards.
No.
So look, it'll be really interesting. We'll probably, before the Olympics, we'll probably do a bit more of a breakdown of, or either this or in article, the men's and women's tournaments. I'm really interested to see the women's. Look, I don't want to downplay with the women's tournament, but let's face it, we're all just waiting until we get to the USA Canada gold medal game, which is what's going to happen. And that will be, by the way, if you only watch one game of women's hockey all year, watch that one.
You got to watch that one for sure.
Especially at the moment, Team USA is on a hot streak. Like the USA women's program is on an absolute heater against Canada right now. Canada still have the best player in the world.
Yeah.
But Team USA has been absolutely white hot against Canada. So I think that's really, and actually, to be fair, Kendall Coyne-Schofield's been pushing quite hard at that top mantle for a bit now. So
yeah, I mean, look, there's a handful of absolutely world-class players, and it is it's always a tight game.
Yeah, and look, I will always say to people, the chance to see Philippe Poulin play, do it. Yeah. All right, now let's get to the last item on the agenda, and it's a very important one for a lot of people, which is what the fuck are we doing with the New York Rangers?
Yeah.
So the New York Rangers are badly broken, are very badly broken. They are currently worst in the East. They are
worst in the East, not by a huge margin, but it's down there.
They are on course to be worst in the whole league if Vancouver can get out of their own way, and if some others can do the same thing. Part of the comment and part of the thing to talk about with regards to the Rangers is like the key injuries. Now, the first thing is when we're talking key injuries, it's really one.
Yeah.
Igor Shesterkin. Now,
that's a big one. Yeah.
Now, I said at the start of the year, and I must put it out there. I didn't really mention it in the last podcast, but in my predictions preseason, I let Brendan talk me out of putting the Rangers last because I had mine ready to go, and Brendan did such a good sell job to tell me that the Penguins wouldn't make the playoffs and the Rangers definitely would. And
I've been very wrong about the Metro so far.
Told it so convincingly that on the fly, I flipped. And I put the Penguins down, and I put the Rangers in the playoffs. I have the Rangers written, and I found my document the other day. I had the Rangers written down last in the Metro. I wish I'd stuck to my guns. Yeah. But my rationale has always been the same, that they are a team that is really badly built. there is no offense, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the whole thing for the New York Rangers is they rely exclusively on Igor Shesterkin.
And this isn't even new. They did the same thing with Lundqvist beforehand.
Well, I was talking to my long-suffering Rangers fan brother, Andrew, tonight, and we were talking before the podcast, and I was talking to him about the Rangers, and we were both talking about the same thing, and he said the problem was when Lundqvist was in net, whoever was his backup, and at the time, obviously, he had a couple of different backups, but a couple who went on to have their own careers.
Like Quick and so forth.
Like Talbot. Well, Talbot was his main backup. Quick's the current backup. But Lundqvist, when Talbot was in net, the Rangers would defend better. And they would be softer on defense with Lundqvist in net because their attitude was, well, he'll stop it. Yeah. And like Lundqvist used to tell them off because he felt like the team would let them through because he could save it. Whereas he felt they played better defensively with Talbot because they thought they had to up their game. And like I said to him, that the image that will forever haunt me of a team failing their goalie is the winning goal for the Kings in the Stanley Cup final against the Rangers. Because it's an overtime winner to win that game, although they won it 4-1 the series. But Lundqvist was the player of the series. He should have got the Conn Smythe. He didn't, but he really should have.
This was him playing flat on the ice, right?
And he makes 4 saves on the winning goal. And nobody from the Rangers comes back to help him. And he is just swatting this puck all over the place. And he is sprawled on the ice and doesn't move, right? And I feel like in the last few seasons, the Rangers have done the same thing largely with Igor Shesterkin. He's so good. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter. And so what you've got is a Rangers team that is severely undermanned, that is not a great offensive lineup, that is just not very good, who's gotten a long way because Igor Shesterkin happens to be the best goalie on earth.
Yeah.
This season, he's been injured a couple of times, now enough to be on injured reserve. Now, what that's doing is showing up the fact that the Rangers have, and like I say, the Rangers have no depth, but if you look at that, that's a 13 forward roster, right? But look at who they are. Like, you find me the offense.
Yeah.
Like, I've been very vocal in the fact that I thought that Panarin should have gone a while ago, and that I didn't understand why they had him. I've never understood the JT Miller move. That gave them nothing apart from someone to put the captaincy on.
Yeah.
Mika Zibanejad hasn't been happy since they traded all of his friends. Lafreniere, I think we can suggest that that's not going to be remembered as a great first pick.
No.
He's not been a complete bust, but he's also not been first overall pick.
No.
But like Sam Carrick, they keep re-signing Matt Rempe for some reason. Connor Sheary, who's on LTIR.
Yeah.
And like protected contracts. Like, and then just to sort of, before we move on to that, there's the defense, which is Adam Fox and
guys.
And like Andrew was like, oh, Will Borgen's been very good since his trade over. Well, that's fantastic and wonderful, but that's not doing much for you. We did a thing before the podcast where I was looking at the protected contracts on the New York Rangers. And I came across Carson Soucy and the fact that he has contract protection. And I said to Brendan, I could not, for the life of me, I did not know what Carson Soucy looks like. And Brendan proceeded to describe the most bland hockey player,
the most generic NHL player. Like, if you take the average of all NHL players.
And I'm going to say, go and look him up because he's exactly what Brendan described.
Like, he sounds like he's probably about 6 foot. He's a white guy with short, crop brown hair. He's got a little bit of a stubbly beard.
Ta-da! Exactly what Brendan described.
It's that dude,
He has contract protection. Why does he have contract? Who is going after 31-year-old Carson Soucy? Is he in that much demand that you felt the need to protect him? Jonathan Quick's protected too. Why? Why has your backup goalie got trade protection? I don't understand.
I don't get it. Like where is he, gonna go? I don't know.
So I'm going to ask you the question.
They're committed to this team, whatever it is.
Well, the question I'm going to ask you,
yeah,
because you know better than I do on this front.
Sure.
How much of this is Sullivan?
I don't think he's been there long enough to really have been involved in most of these decisions. I mean, Sullivan has his guys for sure. Like there's guys that are kind of boring, generic, middle of the lineup kind of guys that he likes. I can see him having certain, maybe he's a big, Carson Soucy fan or whatever. Connor Sherry was there beforehand. He was on the Penguins during Sullivan's run, but he also had been on the Rangers before Sullivan went there. I don't think that's his thing. I don't see how much of this roster really has Sullivan's fingerprints on it. I think that he really hasn't had a chance to kind of make a point of what he wants because they're already so locked into these guys. That said, I mean, I don't know that he's done a lot to ingratiate himself so far in this role either.
I mean, he's not the sort of guy that does. That's part of the thing. He's not really the guy that does. I look at the Rangers and I think it's very rare that you can pinpoint the moment where a team nosedived.
Yeah.
But I think we can, and it goes back to James Dolan speaking out about the previous regime, having a tantrum one day, firing the entire previous regime, and bringing Chris Drury in as GM. A man who at the time had zero experience as a general manager. And letting Chris Drury build the team. And look, I think part of the question is, did Chris Drury build the team? Or was he told by his boss, these are the sorts of players I want you to go and get me. Go and get them. Because remember, the Rangers had done a very good job of gradually building through the draft. That young core was starting to look decent. Obviously, Gorton gets fired and immediately finds his way to Montreal where he's doing a bang-up job. Building a young core piece by piece by piece.
It's such a wild thing, the path that the Rangers took in their rebuild of, literally getting to the point of like putting a notice in the newspaper of like, hey, it's going to be tough for a little while. We're going to be doing it tough while we rebuild. And then within months being like, no, we're done. We're all good.
Igor makes a bunch of saves and you're something like, nah, lies.
We got a good pick and we've decided it's all going to work out for us. And then shockingly it didn't. Like,
I look at the New York Rangers and like I said this preseason, I've said this a couple of times looking at them. I'm going to say it again. I don't know how you fix this roster. You don't have. So I think the only way
fix, for sure.
I think the only genuinely at this point in time, I think the benefit to the Rangers is we have an extremely weak free agency year coming up. Right. All the free agents are off the market. If you are the Rangers and probably the Canucks, you should be doing everything in your power at this deadline to sell.
Yeah.
Because there are teams that are going to want to rebuild who are looking at the free agency class and going, there's no one there. So if we want pieces, let's go pick the bones of the Rangers and Canucks now.
Yeah.
So Artemi Panarin has this year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. Apparently, he hasn't engaged in contract talks, nor have they asked him about who he'd waive for. Like, at some point, you've got to do that, like, before the Olympics. I assume they're waiting for the Olympics because he's not going. But I would be doing that before the Olympics. find out. Mika Zibanejad, at this point in time, what impetus should Mika Zibanejad have to stay on the Rangers? Like, he's not happy there. He's not been happy there for a while.
Yeah, he's not getting a useful role anymore. Like,
they won't move JT Miller because they've just traded for him.
Yeah.
Lafreniere will go. They will find someone to take him. And you know what? It wouldn't shock me if he went somewhere else and suddenly succeeded.
Yeah.
Trocheck, I would be trading Vincent Trocheck. I would be moving every piece that's got any form of value off this roster. And this is where we get to the two tricky bits. Because I've listened to a couple of Rangers group different pods today. And a bunch of them were like, well, the two players you can't trade are Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin. They are untradeable and you cannot move those players for anything. My counter is if you are rebuilding, why do you want to keep Adam Fox?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the point? How old is Fox now? 27? Yeah, he's not going to be. He's not like, I mean, how old is he going to be by the time this team's ready to compete?
If you are rebuilding, you don't want to do that. Now, the other one is Igor. Now, the thing with Igor is his contract is $11.5 million. So you probably aren't moving Igor because you can't move Igor. Because someone's got to take $11.5 million of Igor Shesterkin on.
Yeah.
Now, if you're prepared to eat half of that, I suspect you might be able to get teams that would pay a pretty penny for that. But you're going to have to be prepared to eat just under $6 million.
Yeah.
So if you are prepared to eat 5, 6, 5, 7, you might be able to move Igor Shesterkin. But I genuinely believe that Adam Fox should probably be approached with a who do you want us to talk to? Who do you not want us to talk to?
Yeah.
Because I just look at it and go, you could get so much. For example, again, and I'm only going to use them because I know of the example. But like the Sharks looking for a defenseman. Now, I don't believe the Sharks will go for Adam Fox.
Yeah.
But the Sharks are looking for a top defenseman. That's their next priority because they've already got their offense lined up. They're looking for top line defensemen. Surely you can convince San Jose to part with a first, at least one, if not a couple, with the idea of, well, you think your rebuild is done and you're just an elite defenseman away. This is an elite defenseman.
Yeah.
Give us some firsts. And San Jose would be in a spot where they would have to consider that if they think that they're offensively, they're largely ready and they need some defense. Then moving those picks for Adam Fox would make sense. I think it's beholden to the New York Rangers to ask the question, because I think that you're going to get decent value back for him. And if you spread that over the next, like this draft coming up doesn't have a generational player.
No.
It's got a lot of very, very, very good. Like the top 3 picks are largely considered by everyone to be like a bunch. Like Gavin McKenna's always been spoken about. He'll probably end up going first, but he's fallen as low as 4th on some of these drafts.
Yeah,
but
he's no longer the, slam dunk, like this is the guy who's going to change a franchise.
But you've got a group at the top who will be very good. If you can land one of those 3 in a draft, and then in the next draft, get one of the top couple, and maybe 2 out of the top 15 if you do a good job with getting your picks, suddenly that rebuilds a bit faster.
Yeah.
And you've also got cap space, not for this season when there's nobody available on the free agent market, but the following year when there are players available on the free agent market, because there's a couple of big ones coming up, not this coming one, but the one after. I think if you're New York, you need to strategize that you're going to have a year of being really bad, deliberately.
Yeah.
With the stated aim of coming out of it with a bunch of picks and cap space everywhere, and that you're going to put someone in who is going to build it the right way. The problem is that James Dolan has come out and said that he thinks that Drury is doing an amazing job.
Yeah. I mean, look, what they say publicly is not necessarily what's being said behind the scenes, but...
Except it's James Dolan, and it usually is with him.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can't see them making a big change anytime soon.
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. If you were handed the Rangers and told fix it, how do you fix it?
Yeah, you've got to start pulling it apart. Like, I mean, like it's not a quick fix either way. Like, it's not they're not one, or two players away from suddenly being a fantastic team.
If you've got anyone of value, I think you have to offer them.
Yeah.
Right, and that's going to hurt. But I think
and they're not going to get better in the next year or so with the kind of the guys that they're relying on.
But this is something that I think a lot of teams are starting to learn. If you half-ass the rebuild,
yeah,
this is what happens.
Yeah,
right. This is the cautionary tale for Montreal. The Rangers should be a cautionary tale for Montreal in short-circuiting it and going, "Oh, we're there."
Yeah,
don't go too early, because you've got to build it the right way. Because if you try to short-circuit it and try to cheat it, you end up in this no man's land where you've got a bunch of players on contracts who are protected that shouldn't be. You've got a bunch of nobodies in the middle sort of propping it up, and you've got people that you just can't trade. But they've got picks. Like the Rangers have picks, but they could have so many more picks, which then they could spin into more picks and spin into better picks. If you've got 4 picks in the first round in this upcoming draft, you can parlay some of those into picks in the next year.
Yeah.
Right? Use your picks, build your picks up, build the bank, and have it ready to go when contracts start coming good. Or when other teams start finding themselves next year at the deadline with like players that want to go and don't want to be there anymore. You can get in on the deadline action because you've got the cap space.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Rangers are in one of those spots right now where they've had the key injury has happened to them. The problems have sort of hit really hard, but they've done nothing.
And
they went into this year knowing, and I said this at the start of the year, they don't have a first-line center.
Yeah.
Mika Zibanejad is a great second who can play some first minutes, but he's not a first. So you don't have a top-line center. How are you scoring in this league? Right. This league has become a first-line center-dominated league. You need one. And if you don't have him, you've got to go find him. They have just had Zibanejad sitting in that role, but not really happy in that role and not really wanting to be there. I don't get them. I think that the Rangers are just broken.
Yeah, I think that probably it's it's kind of come to the end of that run. There's probably going to be a couple of uncomfortable years while they work out what's going on, while they kind of get that all under control and then start building again.
They're over the cap too.
Yeah, of course they are.
They're $1 million over. Like they're second last in the league and they're $1 million over. You're doing it wrong, guys. You're doing it wrong. Get better at it. So just before we go, my last question to you is, by the trade deadline, how many major Rangers pieces are moved?
I think that they're going to struggle to make huge moves by the deadline. I think probably some of these are probably draft moves, especially with like the cap opening up for some, because they're going to have to move a lot of cap, like in the next little while. I think probably Panarin. Like Panarin, for sure, I feel like he's the most obvious choice. He's an expiring contract. There's no reason for them to keep him. But I suspect that maybe Fox, but I don't know.
I think they should move Fox. I think the answer will be Panarin.
I think they should, whether or not they will.
It's Panarin, and it's either Zibanejad or Trocheck.
Yeah.
My question is, how are Florida going to somehow manage to fit Panarin under the cap?
Yeah, they'll find a way. They'll find a way.
They'll cut a limb off somebody. I don't know. They're going to find a way to do it, because they just seem to do it all the time. Technically, at the moment, and obviously it's with the LTIR and stuff like that. But technically, at the moment, by the way, the Florida Panthers are $8 million over the cap. They are projected to be $8 million over the cap.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've got the Barkov thing, but
That's the Barkov thing. That's the saving grace on
yeah,
that. The LTIR and
yeah,
Kachuk.
yeah. I think he's not too far off now, from my understanding.
Their roster. Hang on a minute. Their roster at the moment, the Panthers. Just before we go, 1, 2, 3, 4 LTIR players. 1, 2, 3 on normal IR. Like, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And by the way, Leafs fans, they're still in front of you, and with a game in hand. So enjoy that. Anyway, that'll do us for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, doing everything else. If you like it, please share it. Please sort of, share it around, like it on YouTube, share it, give it to your friends. We managed to get it back up on the podcast stream. So if you're listening to it, thank you. Reshare it, like it, tell everyone about it. We really appreciate all the support, and we will catch you all next time.
See you guys.